The last thing you want is for something to go wrong with your plumbing, but it happens a lot. And the last thing you want when there's water spraying all over your kitchen or your toilet is overflowing is looking up reviews on which plumber you should call. So let me save you some time. Call the Art of Plumbing. They're always on time. They can locate the problem and fix it right away. They even help with solutions to stop any future problems. Save time. Call the Art of Plumbing today. 541-951-9405.
Welcome into Other People's Shoes. Of course, I am your host, Neil Matthews, and I don't know about you. Sometimes we have to go back to square one. Start from scratch. What does that look like in your world? What does that look like in your life? Well, my next guests, that's right, there's two of them. We're going to talk to an amazing couple who are going to help us get back to square one, but not stay there, but continue to push forward and to persevere forward. I can't wait to talk to this couple. I hope you're ready for it because you know I am. So here we go.
Hey, come take a walk with me, not like you used to do. Do something different and put yourself in other people's shoes. Open up your mind and open up your eyes and change your direction, change your perspective.
Welcome into Other People's Shoes, of course. I am your host, Neil Matthews. I'm so excited because, one, in light of everything that's going on in the football season, it's always great to sit down next to, or at least across the country from, some Steelers fans. So we'll kind of get to that in a second, but help me welcome in my guests. They're the host of a show called Square One show, which engages listeners in conversational stories with creators, leaders, and dreamers. We're curious as why they've taken the risk and how they've turned their dreams into reality. Our vision is to inspire you to explore, dream, discover your story. What does it look like to live outside of your comfort zone? How can you actively pursue your dream? What are you building? How are you making things better? Help me welcome in my guests, Dave and Jessica. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for being on. Sorry about that Steelers comment. We'll get to that maybe down the way. But I got to tell a quick story. I know it's my show, so I'm allowed to tell quick stories, right?
Sure. Go for it.
Yep. Okay, so here's my quick story about you guys. So a little background. I see a post on Buzzsprout. Now, it's for those who don't know, Buzzsprout is a service that you can actually use as a podcaster that hosts your site and kind of helps distribute your site. So if you're into podcasting, I would recommend maybe looking into Buzzsprout. Little plug. They're not paying me to say that. I use them for a period of time. But anyway, so and you guys use them, right?
Yeah, they're great service.
And they're great service, yeah. So anyway, so I'm reading some posts because, like I said, I still like a lot of what Buzzsprout does. So I'm reading some posts and I'm just fascinated by the guest you guys had on, Mike Lenz, if I'm saying his name right, which I think I am.
Yeah.
So he's on, and so I start listening to the show. Well, the show grabs me right out of the gate with this crazy quote. Do you guys know this crazy quote, this Mark Twain quote? Do you guys know that one?
We do. I need to memorize it.
What is it? Tell me that.
Well, which are you talking about? The
20 years?
The 20-year one, yeah.
Yeah. It's 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did. So throw off the bow line, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover.
Yeah. So I think I'm a quote guy. I love quotes. I'm just blown away by what people say, and I use them as inspiration. We post daily to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, just some kind of daily quote or something like that, because I want to encourage people, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I hear this quote, and I'm like, man, right at the beginning of your show, and I'm like, these guys are awesome. And I love the intro. I love the music. So go listen to their show. So we'll do a little show plug for them already. But go listen to their stuff. And so I think these guys are pretty cool. I like how they sound. They sound good. They sound great. I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to email them. And I'm thinking they're probably huge celebrity superstars. Like I'm ever going to hear back from them. I'm too little. They're so big. That's kind of my mindset as I send this email. But lo and behold, like really fast, I think. I didn't time it, and I didn't go back and look. But it was pretty fast. But I heard back from you guys, and And so what's crazy is, so we start emailing about doing what we're doing right now. And the very next day I walk into my office at work, I have a desk calendar, which has daily quotes, as you might imagine. And lo and behold, this quote from Mark Twain is the quote.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah. You sent me a picture of that.
I did,
Like, you
as proof.
kidding.
As proof. Like Jessica, this is not just a thing. Like this is, like, what are the chances of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Really.
I guess
don't know.
it happened. So
I don't know. I tell that story, and it's probably pretty long, and people are like, why did you tell that stupid story? Because I think it's just the idea of connecting.
Yeah.
Is we don't ever know how we're connecting or why we're connecting, but the little crazy things that bring us together, I think, is what's awesome. So with that, we'll transition now. We got to get this very important question out of the way. Guys, what size shoes do you wear? And ladies first, if you would.
Yes. 8, and if I'm running, an 8.5, because you're supposed to get a half size
Ooh,
larger.
are you a runner?
A wannabe runner. I've done a half marathon, but
Okay.
that was 6 years ago.
Okay.
Because our little one is 6.
Okay.
I did a full marathon 12 and a half years ago. That's how good it was. So
Wow.
I haven't done one.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay,
I
all right. That's really cool. So, brand of shoes, Jessica.
Ooh.
Brand? Well,
Yeah.
I'm currently wearing Walmart $5 slippers, little
Okay.
bunny slippers. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
But normally I
Yeah.
love.
Because you're not wearing those, and you're not wearing those out to Red Robin, or you're not
No.
you're not going to Applebee's in those. I don't know if you have those out there, but
We do.
We do
okay.
have Apple.
All right, good. All right.
No, I don't really wear any kind of like yoga mat shoes. I love Sanooks. Heard of
Sanooks.
those?
I have not heard of those. I'm gonna have to Google that. Sanooks. Okay.
Yeah.
They're the flip flop shoe or the sandal. Either called the sandal shoe or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
they're very comfortable.
And Dave, how about you? What are you rocking?
I'm about 10 or 10 and a half, depending on the shoe, but I don't have like a specific go-to other than now that I'm getting older, my feet hurt more often. I'm kind of leaning more towards the Skechers type that have the cushioned insoles.
We have not gone to Dr. Scholl's yet,
No,
Okay.
but
All right.
it's close. It's covered.
but I feel
Wow.
like there should be a version.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
But
isn't it funny? Ugh,
I
getting
prefer
old.
flip-flops. Yeah.
Yep.
I grew up in Southern California, so as long as the longer I can wear flip-flops is better, but
But then you move
It's a
to
short-
Northwest Pennsylvania where it's like boot weather.
short season around here, but we take what we can get.
Yeah, I guess so. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard any shows. I confess every episode I have a shoe problem. I organized my studio this weekend, and I think I had just in the studio alone, because my wife gets mad when they're around the house. So there's a mention, honey. I think I had 12 pairs just in the studio. So that's kind of a problem. So
Yeah.
anyway,
What's-
so
What's
there we
your
are.
favorite?
What's
what's your
my
favorite?
favorite? Oh man.
Yeah.
So I'm a big runner too. I'm actually running. I'll finish out by the time this airs. I will have finished out our running season. But I'm a big Asics guy when I'm running, and when I'm not running, I really love Jordans. I have expensive tastes, and I'm a big North Carolina fan. So pretty much anything light blue that is in a Jordan, I'm. Garrett's shaking
They've
his
got-
head. They have my money. They have my money.
Oh, and you're like, I'll pay anything.
I'll pay anything. Yes. I did buy, I'm embarrassed to say this, I bought $200 pair of shoes a couple of years back because they were the unicorn shoes, and I've only worn them I think about a dozen times. They usually sit on the shelf. So that's what's lame about me. So anyway, so back to you guys. So I am dying to ask this question. How does someone meet, right? How does someone meet and decide to get married 7 months later? How the heck does that happen?
I don't know. And if our daughter did that, we'd be like, no.
That's what I was just gonna ask. Like I have a 12-year-old, and I'm thinking she comes home and she's like, "Hey, Dad, I met this really amazing guy named Dave. Dave's super cool. He's in a band." I'm like, "Nope,
2 red flags.
Yeah.
Or 1 red flag.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think it was just the right timing. We were both at the right age that we kind of knew what we wanted. We were living 10 hours apart. She was up here in Pennsylvania. I was in Nashville touring with the band. So, which gave me some flexibility with the job because we'd have a couple of weeks off here and there. And so I would come up to Pennsylvania. It's about a 10-hour drive. And I actually would stay at her parents' house, and she was living with her grandma. And so we would have,
because it was closer to work.
yeah,
at that point.
we'd have quite a bit of time just to get to know each other, kind of like hyper dating almost. So we had more time than just like a couple days here and there.
And it was
so.
like you fully immersed with my family.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if you can deal with my
Right.
entire family, then everybody's like, well, I guess he could stay.
Yeah.
He's putting up with us. So.
And I think we just kind of knew. And for us, like, I was 25. I think we were both about 24, 25. And we knew. And so we were like, there's no point in waiting. We might as well just get married now. So
I
Yeah,
gotta
kinda-
say, I've been around a little bit, and I think that's the fastest I've heard of someone getting married
nice.
that I've
well,
encountered at least.
I guess.
Yeah.
But my
You gotta-
scope may be limited, so there it is.
Yeah. Well, we just had our 17th anniversary of the day we met a couple weeks ago. So
It's
Wow.
working out so
yeah,
far. Yeah.
3 kids.
And I think it's helpful. Both our dads are pastors.
Mm.
And so we kind of had that faith-based,
Good, solid family
values
foundations, and kind of
as a base.
knew what we were looking for. So I think it worked out.
Wow.
Knock on wood.
So you mentioned the band. Is it still in existence?
That band is not, no, although the lead singer is still touring. He's actually kind of the new Freddie Mercury. the
No
Queen.
kidding.
Yeah, he's doing the Queen Experience. And so he was actually the vocals in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie that just came out. And so
Wow. I
he's
just
doing
watched
pretty well.
that again this weekend. I
Yeah.
love that.
It's so-
I really like that movie.
yeah.
Is
so
that
if
bad
you
that
look
I
up-
like that movie? I don't know.
No.
No, I loved it.
I loved it.
If you look up Mark Martel, he was one. We had 2 lead singers in our band, and he was the one that sounded like Freddie, obviously. So
Yeah.
Wow. That's
but
cool.
yeah, most the other guys are either leading worship or
At a church
doing
or
similar stuff. Yeah.
Glenn's
so,
making mead in
yeah.
Williamsburg.
Yeah.
So it was kind of our family. We traveled all over the U.S., Canada, parts of Europe, and we still are very close with them.
Yeah.
All right. Can we hear any
Yeah.
of the bands that you were in that was touring? Can we hear any of that anywhere, like Amazon or Spotify
Yeah,
or
if you
anything
look
like
up-
that?
If you just Google Down Here, that was the one that I toured with the longest time. But we toured with quite a few other bands that opened for us all the time.
Wait.
Actually,
The name of the band is Down Here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've heard of them. I've
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
I think they were on my running list. I'm gonna have to go look. Now I'm gonna have to go
Yeah.
look. I'll have to let you know off air or send you an email or
We
something.
had
They were on my
songs
list
that-
though for a while. They had a really cool song, and it's escaping me because you throw music on and it's on the running list.
Yeah.
You don't need to know the name of it. It's just awesome.
No,
So
That's to motivate you.
Right.
Running.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, that's awesome. That's a cool story, guys. So faith-based families and all of that, and that's awesome too. I love that. I love hearing that. So how and why does Square One start? Like what's the story behind that?
It's actually been a long process to get to where we are today, and I think we're always going to be tweaking it a little bit. But originally, it actually started as a podcast for small business startups to try and encourage them. We actually had another guy that was on the show with us for a little while, and Jess had a small business that we ran out of our house in our basement. She had about, I don't know, 5 or 6 girls stitching in our basement, handcrafted packaging for photographers. It was a great business. And so, but then because of that, she was getting lots of people asking her a lot of questions about, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? And so that's when podcasting was just starting to get some legs and started getting more popular. So we thought maybe this would be a fun thing to try to do a podcast together. So we started off just the 3 of us talking about business.
How
and
to start a
how
business.
to start a small business. And that, so originally the Square One show was like the square one of starting a business, but things kind of progressed a little bit. Our other friend kind of went off to do some different things. So then we just started interviewing some friends that had businesses, and we really enjoyed the interview process, and just had a lot of fun with that. And so we started pivoting to not just us talking, but interviewing people. And then we actually ended up moving away for a couple of years to Virginia. And during that time, we didn't have as much time to devote to the show. And then we were really taking some time to really figure out what we wanted to focus on. And so we started to kind of pivot to not just businesses or not just starting up a business, but really hearing people's stories, and especially people who are really like creatives and people who are thinking differently about the world and trying to make change, and how they do that, and not just how they do it, but also why. We're really interested in hearing the why of people's stories, of what motivates them and what at their core who they are. And so Square One is more now like where they are, where their passion and stuff comes from, but also we kind of even just started thinking about it as they're the square ones. They're the square pegs that don't fit in the round hole of society or the world. And so we're speaking to the square ones. We're square ones because we kind of see the world a little bit differently. So that's kind of where the podcast is now and where it's kind of heading. So
Do you guys have a personal Square One story?
yeah, I think
Lots of them, I think.
yeah.
Okay. Narrowing it down to maybe one, like your favorite one, maybe? I don't know.
Square One as far as like where
Yeah, I mean, I mean, not necessarily even on the show per se, but I mean, do you guys have a moment where you're like, we kind of just need to reset and kind of go back to, like you're saying, like square one, starting from scratch?
I think that's we don't really have one square one. It's like we keep coming back to square one. Like with
Okay,
certain
so maybe
things.
explain that, Jessica. Explain that then.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes back to, I guess if we were to boil it down, we're really passionate about our family. We have 3 kids, 12, 10, and 6. And our relationships, it's all about relationships, right? So building that, where that comes from, and how do we function as a family? How do we do this work-life balance thing? Going back to, like Dave mentioned, I founded a it's called Craft and Jute Packaging for photographers. And we had 5 girls coming in all the time. I had just had Truett, and I was so stressed out. I was exhausted. I decided, homeschooling would be fun. It is not fun. And,
Not for us. It's fun for some people.
It's fine for some people. We're like, I don't know if we can handle all this. And so it really, you start peeling back the layers of the onion and go, okay, why are we doing this? Why am I stressed out? Why is there 6 girls coming into my house every day? Like, do we need that? Is that helping our family? Is it not? So there's just so much that I learned about starting up a business, growing a business. And thankfully I was doing that with my cousin. So she was able to come in, and I was able to sell my half to her because she helped grow the business too. And so I don't know, I guess leaning into that and then coming out and saying, okay, what if we restructured this? Like, I was stressed out probably because I had just had a kid and 2 other kids, and Dave was working full time. I was trying to work full time with the kids. And so how do we not get to that point of being totally stressed out? How do we use our gifts and talents, not on the side, but as in the forefront of what we do? Yeah. And so the last couple of years have really been, it's all about that side hustle, and that's great. But how do you make that a part of your life?
And why?
Why?
That's kind of our main impetus a lot of times, is just asking why. What's the end point to all this? Are we just doing it just because we want to build something that makes us look cool, or because we want a lot of money? Or like, what is the reason? And a lot of those, for us, those things aren't good motivators. Like for us, we just want to help people. We want to engage with people, and we keep coming back to relationships. Relationships are huge for us. And so that's part of the reason why we moved back from Virginia, is just to reconnect with family and our community that we had here. Because for Square One, for me, at that same time that she was working, building that business, I was working full time at a church, and just getting really overwhelmed and stressed out and burnt out. It was a big church, and I was the main creative director for 3 locations, and just overwhelmed. And I ended up in the hospital, in the ER, with anxiety and stress. And so we really had to take a step back and say, what are we doing? Like, we need to reevaluate this and make sure like what we're doing is healthy for us as a family, and take steps that are going to take us to a more healthy spot. So I think for us, we just keep asking those questions, why we're doing what we're doing. And that's part of the podcast now too, is to encourage people to be asking those questions and to be looking at different ways that they can live their lives that way too.
Guys, that's great. I mean, not that you had to endure all that, but man, to kind of sit back and say, okay, why? Asking the why. I think so many times as a society, we don't ask the why. Like you said, we're looking into what's next. But why is such a driving factor. I think it should be a driving factor for so many people, and not enough people are asking the why. So great insight there, guys. I love that. So why are people's stories so important, do you feel like?
A lot of reasons. I think people connect with other people's stories because they can see part of themselves in other people's stories. I mean, we're all, in a lot of ways, we're all the same, right? I mean, we all kind of have same dreams and desires in some ways, but how we get there might be different. So when you hear somebody's story that kind of mimics some of the things that you've gone through and experiences that you've had, you can find encouragement from that, and you can kind of be inspired by somebody else's story that's been where you are and then has now gone to where you want to go. And you might not think you can get there, but hearing their story can give you that encouragement and that optimism to maybe at least think differently and to change your attitude a little bit.
Yeah, because life is hard.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with a really difficult situation, I think any kind of hope or encouragement, you just look for that. I mean, we have so much depression in our society, and we just want to offset that.
Yeah, I think we're made to be in community with people. We're made to be in conversation. That I mean, honestly, that's really a big issue with the whole technology craze and all that. And in a lot of ways, it's actually separating us because it's taking away from our communication. So we're looking at having more authentic conversations and relationships, and which was one of the coolest thing about touring with the bands, because Jess toured with us too. She was our road manager for 4 or 5 years. We had the kids out for a little while too. And so traveling all over the country and all over the world, it was really cool to be able to meet so many different people. And one of the best experiences we had was just sitting down with people and hearing their stories and just finding out who they were and how they got to where they are and how their lives were in some ways similar, in some ways a lot different than ours. But it was just a really cool experience. And that's partly what has inspired us to want to do this show, partly because we know so many people all around the country and the world that we almost just want to introduce to our listeners. Like, you got to check out this person's story. They're so cool. They're a great person. You need to hear their story. And so that's kind of what's motivating us in some ways.
So on that same thought process, is there a story that has maybe moved you or kind of inspired you in a unique way? And if so, can you maybe give some details on that?
A story from our show that we've interviewed people?
Yeah, or your show, or just in your experience of just interacting with people. Because again, I think your show is just probably the launching point for maybe releasing some of these stories. But I mean, is there a couple of stories, like I said, that come to mind that you're like, man, that one really moved me, or that one really kind of spurred me on to some greater things?
Yeah, this wasn't on our podcast at all. But when I was working at Craft and Jute, there's someone who called and basically chewed out one of my girls. She's the one who gets to answer all the calls and takes care of clients, and we're huge on client relationships. And this guy was just tearing her to pieces. And she's like, Jess, can you get on the phone? Like, can you talk to him? So basically I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like, that's not okay. So I just listened. I was like, hey, so what's going on? What's wrong? And he kind of named the problem, and it was a really little, not that big a deal. So, I'm thinking there's got to be something else going on. So I think it was just intuitively going, how are you doing? Like, what's going on? And after asking a few of those questions, he's like, I just found out my wife has terminal cancer. And he's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, I don't know how to deal with it. And so I think that's where relationships are so important, because there's always something deeper. There's always something underneath. If someone is flying off the handle, something is obviously going on underneath. And so I think it's just us being able to have the self-control and the maturity to take a deep breath and say, gosh, how are you doing? are you okay? So I think that's,
Yeah. Just learning empathy with other people, I think, is patience and
yeah. And that's, I mean, that's just a tiny little story, but I think that's what motivates me to share other people's stories, because there's always something deeper and underlying
yeah.
that we can share and connect with and empathize with. Like, I'm so sorry. That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think part of our show is we don't want to just have like the surface conversation. Well, how did you build your business? Like that stuff's really interesting. It's great, but we try and go a little bit deeper too and figure out, well, what motivated you to do that? Why are you doing that? Are you just trying to build your own kingdom, or is this something deeper than that? And or what were the struggles that you went through? What are the things that you learned through those struggles? And we've had several people on the show that have gone through quite a bit. Like Angela Gass, one we just had, I think it was maybe our last episode,
yeah.
just how she was fired a couple different times and
Not fired.
Well, sorry, let go, and kind of downsize. And that was kind of like her motivation or the kick in the pants to start her own business, and just how that gave her the freedom almost to start her business.
She said in one of the episodes, she said, it took me 2 times being laid off by this company for me to realize, a full-time job isn't my stability.
Mm-hmm.
So I might as well just go out and do what I love to do and figure it out. And we actually just ran into her yesterday up at Presque Isle, and she said it's been 3 years, and it takes a little bit to start rolling, getting the clients, but she's like, I'm in my 3rd year now, and she's like, it's going awesome. I'm able to find the clients that I really want to work with and help with, and things don't happen overnight.
And she did it because her motivation too was to spend more time with her family and her kids. And she was at the beach with her kids yesterday, and she was talking about she heard friends talking about how they had to work all weekend and almost bragging about it. And she was like, "That's not a good thing. Why are you excited?" Like, I'm gonna go hang out with my kids.
Yeah, I don't think I've eever bragged about having to work on the weekend. I've been pretty fortunate the last 4 years or so not having to work weekends again. Ugh. Yeah. My friends joke, like, you have an adult job now. You don't have to work on the weekends. So that's funny. But
I used to always work weekends and only weekends, working at a church and then touring, doing shows were pretty much always weekends. So it's not to anymore.
Yeah. Guys, I gotta say that alone right there to me even sparks so many thoughts about just the fact that you're just pushing forward, right? You're just continuing to give people a platform, which I think so many times they don't have, and they think, well, I'm just a nobody. Nobody really cares about me, or nobody really cares about what I've gone through. But to really spend time with people and to really get into their story is awesome, and it's great and very compelling in a lot of respects, for sure. So, guys, you mentioned your kids earlier. As parents, what are you doing to show your kids that they need to be challenged, or how? Let me restate that. I'm just saying that really bad, but so you're a parent of 3 kids, right? And how are you parenting your kids to be challenging and dreamers in a lot of respects?
I think they're challenging us.
Well, most kids do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I think the best way is almost unintentionally, just by doing what we're doing. They're observers of everything we do, so they're watching us do all these different things. I mean, we moved to Virginia to pursue something for a couple of years and
help our friends.
Help our friends start a business down there, and then moved back to be with family and that whole process. And they see us working from home as running our own businesses, and they know about the Square One show. They know about what we do. And Dave
just built a little studio that we're sitting in right now. So they saw the 2x4s go up, and Daddy nailing all the drywall in and spending hours on that.
But then also I think they see, we try to be really open and honest with our kids too. So they don't just see the glamorous part of running a business, which there's not a lot of glamour in it.
No, there's no glamour.
But they see the struggle too. They see the hard work that goes into it, and but we also encourage them to pursue their talents and the things that they love. And so our daughter Callie, she's really talented artist, and we really encourage her to pursue that. She took an art went to an art camp this summer, and she drew a pencil sketch this summer and entered it in the fair and won the blue ribbon at the fair this year. So, and our boys are both getting into athletics now and starting to pursue that a little bit. And Callie worked at the fair this year in the ice cream stand. And so we're just trying to show them to just step out and take some challenges and risks. But I think the biggest thing is just watching us, and hopefully
I do voiceovers,
Yeah,
during the
that's
day.
easy.
And so being able to have the kids come in on the microphone and record,
Yeah.
just test some things out. And Callie just did a job that was, small, but she
Yeah.
started a bank account. And
Yeah, we just got her first bank account. So we're just slowly easing them into kind of what's possible and kind of seeing that you don't necessarily have to be pigeonholed into a 9-to-5 job that you might do just to earn a living, but there's lots of possibilities out there, and you can kind of take a little bit of risk and dream a little bit.
And, we're huge Dave Ramsey fans as well. And so being able to say, we want to do this and do this all debt free,
Yeah.
is a huge part of it too.
That's
And
great.
Try to show our kids how to handle money. And I mean, it sounds nice. They are challenging, because when you say we're showing our kids the right path, it's like
No,
if you came and saw us after
No.
school, be like, oh my gosh, stop fighting.
I'm not saying we're good. I'm saying learning from what we
They're
do.
learning from you're right.
Good and bad.
So guys, be awesome parents right now, right? And so give those parents out there that may be struggling with their kids, right? Not that you guys have it all together, because from the sound of it, you don't, right?
Nope.
But give some parental advice. Like, what would you say to parents right now that have parents that are like really struggling and fighting with kids to find their niche or their whatever? What would you say to those parents out there? Because it sounds like you're really kind of letting your kids, in a lot of respects, dictate kind of their path, and you're kind of just kind of keeping them on that path, but not necessarily pushing them on a path. Would that be fair to say?
In some respects, I mean, we don't give them free reign at all. Not in that sense, but when they start to show some interest in some things, we try and encourage it a little bit, or at least help them to explore that a little bit. But we're not the parents that our kids are signed up for 4 different sports and going everywhere, and kind of our lives don't revolve around our kids necessarily, but they're a huge part of it, and we do a lot with them, but they're not the driving force necessarily. I think they all understand that we're a family and that we're a unit that works together. And so
We're not willing to drive kids hours and hours away every night after school and do sports thing. I mean, some families do that, and that's good for some families because that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
For us, it's more of like, that's too stressful. Like, I know where my stress points are. I guess we know where our boundaries are. So I think advice to parents would be, find out how your family best functions, find healthy ways. Because every family is so different. I think that's why it's so hard to say, here, you got to do this, step 1, 2, and 3.
I think the biggest thing is just have lots of grace. Like,
Yes.
because we're very far from perfect, and nobody is, and kids are hard. Like, I think kids are the biggest challenge we've ever encountered in our lives. And so it's a daily, I mean, we pick up from school and the countdown clock begins to 7:00 when our youngest 2 go to bed. And then we celebrate a little bit. So,
Yeah.
Is there a dance? Is there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I think just giving yourself grace, that's not going to be perfect. And for me, I'm a very type 1 where I'm a perfectionist, and I want things to go the way I envision them and have some control over things. And having kids, especially 3 kids, it's never going to go how I want. And it's easy for me to get really bent out of shape and get frustrated. And so I've really had to work hard on letting things go a lot, and kind of understanding that I don't have the control, and I just need to do the best I can to love them and to be there for them. And just when things are getting messed up or they're destroying the living room.
Yes, somebody got raspberries out of our freezer, and there's melting
Somebody,
raspberries.
man, if I find
Yeah.
that somebody in my house, so help me God.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a
We know,
we know
who
which
the
somebody.
somebody is, but
Okay.
But I don't know why there's raspberries all over the floor
Yeah.
downstairs.
but yeah, I think we just have to understand it's a season too. It's not going to always be this way. It'll change, and they're going to grow up someday. And so we just try to do the best we can in this season and to have as much grace and patience as we can. And then we make plenty of mistakes. I think we're getting better at it. We've been working harder at it because our youngest one has been extra challenging. He's extremely creative and his own person, so he takes a bit more work. And our initial reactions when he was really young were to yell a lot and to just get upset. And
Because that's your natural reaction.
Yeah.
You just, unless you learn how to control yourself, it's just like, what are you doing?
yeah, so we've been working really hard to not react in the moment.
Hey,
to take a
bud.
moment, step back
Hey, bud, what's going
Yeah.
on?
when you really want to kill him in that moment.
Yeah.
But
Your
It's actually
youngest sounds a little bit like me in a lot of respects.
yeah,
Very
awesome.
sensitive, very creative.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
he's gonna be
And that's awesome. And we love that. We're just trying to survive it right now.
yeah.
I'll give you my
Yeah.
mom's number. See how she.
We should chat with your mom.
yeah.
Yeah.
Get my mama in here. You guys could chat with her on that. So, guys, how does perseverance play a role in your guys' story?
Well, I think just that with the kids. It's something you learn. It's something, I mean,
Sure.
our youngest is 6 and our oldest is 12. So for the past, longer than 12 years, it just takes so much time to learn perseverance, which is kind
Yeah.
of ironic.
Yeah, and I think I think about this a lot. Our culture is not really into perseverance, I don't think, and they're not into. And I don't. I mean, I put myself in this boat too, but pain and any kind of discomfort are things that we try to avoid at all costs. And the thing that, as the older I get, the more experiences I go through, especially the more painful and challenging experiences I go through, really understand that some of the greatest experiences and the best, most fulfilling things come out of the most painful and the greatest struggles. So, and you won't experience that if you don't persevere through it. So when we face these challenges and have setbacks or things like our youngest being really challenging, or Jess's mom, we lost her this last year to cancer, and just things like that we've struggled through actually bring us to a place that's so much healthier and so much more fulfilling. But we would never be there if we didn't persevere through it.
Mm-hmm. Any relationships, I think bringing that full circle
Yeah.
to, the most difficult relationships, there's just, let's take time to listen to each other, it's not about my opinion. It's not about my agenda. It's about connecting.
Do you guys have a specific example of something that you really like? Now that you're through it, you're like, man, I'm glad we made it through it. But man, at the time, I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
When Dave mentioned working at the church, and we still have great relationships with them. And I working with Craft and Jute and all the girls coming in all the time. Like, that was really stressful for both of us at the same time with a newborn and 2 kids. And so I think what we've learned is, let's not do that again. And how do we set up boundaries for ourselves so that we don't get ourselves in unhealthy situations?
Yeah, because by nature I'm getting better at it, but I used to be a very yes person. I was always wanting to help everybody and do anything I could, but because I said yes all the time, it really spread me really thin. And Jess is this way too.
We're both yes, like, yeah, we want to help.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Let's dive in. Let's help.
So that just learning being okay saying no to certain things, and
Because that allows somebody else to step in and use
Yeah.
their gifts and talents too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to probably
Okay.
get in trouble here. So if my sister ever hears this, so Angel, listen up. My sister struggles with the yes also. She will say yes to everything.
Mhm.
And so I've jokingly said to her that I'm going to make her a ringtone from Meghan Trainor's song, My Sign Is No.
Yeah.
The whole song is just like, no, 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 no.
Yes.
I don't know. It just made me think of that. Meghan Trainor just got mentioned on the show. So there we go. Garrett's dying right now. He's shaking his head. There's a lot of head shaking going on, and it's not in the yes form, it's in the no form. But guys, why is the yes? Why should we protect the yes? And I know this is a little kind of off topic, but I feel like it's very relevant. Why should people protect the yes? Why do you have to protect the yes?
Well, I think that could be, I have a little bit more like a design background, and they talk a lot about like white space and creating white space. And that's where you can take a deep breath, and that's where other things can happen, and you allow other things to happen. So if we're saying yes to everything, then there's no white space left for us to just be and live in the moment. We're either living in the past and grieving something in the past, or celebrating something in the past, or we're looking to the future. It's like, how do we create that white space? So the yes or the no, the yes, the no, the no.
Protecting the yes, which allows you to say no, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're saying yes to everything, you can't have that white space. I'll help you out, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It
Very
just
confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It becomes very unhealthy too. For me, if I say yes to everything, like I said, I just get spread way too thin, and then none of the stuff that I'm doing is the good quality, because I'm a perfectionist too. So everything I do, I want to do it 100%. But if I'm saying yes to 1,000 different things, I can't do all those things to the 100%. So I'm naturally going to get burnt out. And the more I say yes to, the faster I'm getting burnt out, because I don't have the capacity to handle that much.
Yeah, I do. I think that protecting the yes is so vital in life.
And it's hard. It's so hard because we have that fear of missing out, right? Like, but if I don't do this though, I could be missing a huge opportunity.
Or the fear they're not going to like me if I say no, or they're not going to be happy with me if I say no. So we have to get over that too.
How do we get over that?
It takes practice.
Okay.
You say no,
Say
and then
no
you're like,
once. Yeah.
okay, that felt kind of good, and then no again, and then all of a sudden you're like, no.
Well, and I think you learn the tools of how to say no. You don't just say no.
Well, there's tactful
Right.
ways. Of
Yeah.
course.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no.
No way. Yeah. So
Henry Cloud has a really great book called Boundaries.
Yeah.
Which is really fantastic for people who have really hard time saying no. It's, how to say no, when to say yes.
mm-hmm.
So that's a really good resource.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate you guys mentioning that. So we did a couple of past shows where we talked about darkness and depression and things like that, and it was very dark for me, and so now I'm kind of glad we're out of our own darkness and looking onto some more lighter topics. But for you guys, if you can go with me a little bit into your darkness, when things seem the darkest, where do you guys turn to?
I think everybody's different. I personally believe in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That's kind of where that comes from. Absolutely. That's the light,
Mm-hmm.
He's the light to our path that guides us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. You're allowed to say that, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's taken, if you say I'm a Christian, like there's 1,000 different, like, oh yeah, you pegged into one thing, but
Yeah.
there's just something so deep about that, and I lost my mom to cancer. She had brain cancer for 4 years, and that's hard going through that. And there's got to be hope. There's got to be something bigger than all of us that connects all of us. There's a creator. We're created for story. That's our worldview. That's where we come from. Everybody has a worldview. Whether you believe it or not, you come from some kind of baseline worldview. And so that's where we come from.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Dave,
I guess that's
Dave,
ours.
how about you? Would you echo that, or what would you say to
yeah.
that?
Yeah, it's the same. I think like we keep saying, talk a lot about relationships. And so for us, our thing that grounds us is our relationship with Christ. And then beyond that, it's our relationship with each other, and then with our family and our community. And community is so important to us. Like that, we talked about that before. That's why we moved back from Virginia, to be part of our community here. And I think when times are tough and hard, the community for us is where we see Jesus. That's where we experience Jesus more tangibly, I think, in a lot of ways. They act as Jesus to us and are able to love us and to support us and take care of us. Like she was saying, when her mom passed away, we had so many friends in our community that just stood by us. And we had friends that flew in from Nashville to come to the ceremony, and friends from Ohio that came in, and just, it was almost overwhelming, just the support. But that's, I think for us, our community is a huge source of strength, because they're grounded in the same things that we are. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody doesn't have that as their square one, I like the pun there. What would you say to them?
Where to go?
Yeah, when they're in their darkest moment, right? Where would you suggest someone goes in their darkest moment if they don't have, like you said, I mean, you're talking about your faith. If they don't have this community, if they don't have this, where would you suggest that they go?
That can be complicated. I think, to be able to say, just pray, it doesn't seem like enough, right? But I think if you're genuinely seeking and your heart is open, I think that God finds us. And I also think that he connects us to the people we really need to seek out. My cousin, Tom, is a counselor, and he talks through this with people all the time, and drug and alcohol addiction, like that. So for him, it's like finding someone who is well-versed in the depression. I really am not 100%. I've been a little bit depressed before. I had postpartum depression, I would say, but I don't know that put me in a space where a lot of people deal with a really heavy, deep, dark depression. And so I don't know that I could say, here's what you do. Other than
here's 8 steps that you need to get out of this, right?
And I think too often we try to do that, and in some ways it makes it worse when we say, well, here's the 5 steps you take if you're depressed. And
what happens if that doesn't work?
Yeah, and then they become more defeated and more depressed. So I think if you have friends, reach out to them, start with that. And then I think there is some responsibility on the person that has depression, but when you're in that state, it's really difficult, obviously, to make good decisions and rational decisions. But
like when I had postpartum depression, and I wasn't even diagnosed, but right. I was like, I remember sitting in my bed, and Dave came in, and I was just crying, and I was like, I don't even know how I feel. Like I don't know. It's just like this void.
Yeah. So, but I think it does fall on us too to try and be more aware of the people in our lives, and to that's what we talk about community, to try and get past the surface conversations with people we know and our friends. And like Jess was talking about, the guy she talked to on the phone, who he found out his wife had just had terminal cancer. Like, you don't get to that point unless you take the time to push into those conversations, and they're awkward and they're uncomfortable, which is why we shy away from them so often. But I think we have to take the time to do that, because that's how people are taken out of those situations, is by other people taking the risk to step into it.
So going back to this Mark Twain quote, as we kind of try to come to the finish line here, why does that quote resonate with you guys so much?
I think it kind of encapsulates our lives. I think
sail away from the safe harbor.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we've done that a lot, but it's not our natural inclinations. I think, especially me, I'm more comfortable not sailing away. I'd be more than happy staying on the harbor and watching
We
the boats,
like the safe
watching the
harbor.
boats sail away. But I know, like I talked about before, it's not until I do take those risks and move into the things that I'm afraid of and move into the things that I'm uncomfortable with. It's on the other side of those things that I find the most fulfillment and joy. And so I think it continues to encourage us to keep doing that, to keep pushing into the things that make us afraid or uncomfortable.
We're curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, because we
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I'm more of a curious person, you know. Oh, well, why? Or why do we do things that way? What's the why?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of leads us to sometimes into places where Dave's like, what are we doing? I was like, well, I was just curious. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I used to get in trouble. I too worked at a church. I have a church background where I was on staff, and I actually got in trouble. I remember this senior pastor called me into his office, and he goes, you know, Neil, you're not always going to get to know the why.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, I need to know the why, though. And even at work nowadays, you know, I get in trouble a lot because I have the question of the why. Why did this happen? Why did this take place? Why are we doing this? Why? And people are like, you don't always
Don't
need the
ask
why. So that's awesome.
Did you ask your senior pastor why?
I did, and I think I got in trouble. So I love him. He was on a past episode, but I do love him. So with that, we're gonna end with our favorite game. We like to play a game called Senseless. So Garrett is gonna roll for you, and we'll see what happens here. So you're gonna have to trust that we're telling you the right number. So we'll go 2 rolls. So the first roll we'll say was Jess's roll, and she is gonna roll a number 1, and that's this. So here's your question. Again, a game we love to call Senseless. So, how do you want others to see you?
Oh, that's hard because it's two-sided,
There's 2 sides of that coin. Okay.
Yeah.
right? Because we have the ego side of us, and then we have the real side of us. So the eagle, not the eagle.
Landed.
Wow.
Eagle.
That was my eagle sound, by the way. So there it is. That's terrible.
The ego side of me wants to be successful and cute and helpful and have it all together.
Nailed it.
With my cute little bunny slippers.
Yeah.
But I think the real authentic side of me is I don't want people to look at me. I want them to see Christ through me. So that's the struggle.
And the struggle is real.
Struggle is
It
real.
is.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So does Dave has an easier question?
We'll see. So Garrett's going to roll for him, and he rolled the number 4. And our favorite question, that's my favorite number, is number 4. And so question number 4 is this. Dave, what sound or noise do you love to hear?
Oh, geez. That's a tough one because
Why is that tough?
I get annoyed by noises very easily, but I'm also an audio engineer. So
Yeah, that's why I thought it was kind of poetic.
yeah.
And again, Garrett rolled him, so blame Garrett. He's off air, so you can't really yell at him. But anyway, go ahead.
I think my favorite sounds is a really clean bass guitar through a huge PA system.
Not everybody would say that.
Yeah.
That's a first. Absolutely. That's a first.
Yes, I'm first.
You are an original. I'm trying to think of like an opening bass like song that I could like put that
It's
to.
a sound. It's a sound and a feeling at the same time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's an immersive experience.
Yeah. Almost like what was that sound at the beginning of the Minion movie? Like they come down and it's like, "Whoa." I don't know what I'm going. Garrett's shaking his head. It's not rehearsed. We do not rehearse these shows. This is all just me. So, so guys, I want to give you an opportunity. Talk about the show, talk about what you're doing, talk about projects. How can people find you guys and listen and all that stuff? So take it away.
Well, you can find us at squareoneshow.com. And we're trying to push out 2 episodes a month. We've got one coming out
Today.
Well, depending on when they're.
I know. Tomorrow. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, yeah.
So by the time
but-
this airs, you'll have like probably 4 out, maybe. I
Yes.
don't know. Okay.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to be consistent.
Okay.
So yeah, squareoneshow.com. And
Yeah.
I do a lot of voiceovers, so you can find me at jessicalewisvoice.com. And Dave has sound engineering at clarityproav.com.
Yep.
We have too many things going on. So really, if you just do squareoneshow.com, find us there, and then
Okay.
I think all the websites at the very bottom.
Okay. Awesome. Love that. And why should people listen? Why should people listen to your show?
Well, hopefully our goal is that they'll listen so that they'll maybe take some inspiration and some encouragement to keep going down a path that might be outside their comfort zone, or to help them take a little bit of risk, or I know we talked about saying no a lot, but maybe saying yes to some things that will
Creating the white space first,
yeah
so that you can say yes.
and just be able to resonate with people's stories. Some of it's entertaining too, some of it's inspirational. So yeah, I think you'll find some good stuff there, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I didn't say this at the opening, but I did listen to Mike Linz's episode, and maybe I did say it, but I took notes. And
yes, his is.
I am not a note taker. Like Garrett is probably laughing right now because he's like, I want to see these notes. I want proof that these notes exist, because we go to production meetings so often, and Garrett takes the notes and everything because I'm not a note taker. Not a note taker, but I did. I promise I did, and Garrett will have to be proof of that. But I want people to know this, because I think you guys are doing a really great show, and I think that's part of what excited me. Is that a thing? I think part of the reason why I was excited, I think that's what I was looking for in doing this show with you guys, is because what you're doing is so awesome. And I loved that what you're doing, and I loved that we got to be a part of things.
Yeah, I'm so glad you reached out. It's been a struggle getting this thing up and going, and we have been second guessing ourselves over and over and over. And I think we just got to the point where, you know what, people's stories are important. We 100% believe in that. And even though we don't feel adequate, I feel terribly unprepared, inadequate.
I'm pretty awesome, but yeah, what she said.
I had a feeling you would say you were pretty awesome, Dave. I just had that feeling there. Yeah, that's good.
No, not true.
Well, guys, guys, I'm excited. Go ahead. Finish your thought, Jess.
My thought was just completely lost.
Okay, I wrecked it.
Dave's ego just punched me in the face.
Just right in the face. Okay. Well, guys, I want to say thanks for coming on. Thanks for being a part of things. Thanks for being in other people's shoes. And I'm going to see if this works. So let's see if that works. Is that the right one? Hey, look at that. I pushed the right button. So, of course, this is Other People's Shoes. Of course, I am your host, Neil Matthews. And I just want to invite you. Go listen to their show. It's awesome. Go take some notes like I did. Guys, I also want to remind you, as I do so often, remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Of course, I am your host, Neil Matthews, and I look forward to next week as we get to try on another pair of shoes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on Other People's Shoes. Of course, I am your host, Neil Matthews. I'm so excited that you joined us today. By the way, my major takeaway today's episode was when Jess and Dave were talking about where they find their encouragement to persevere and how they persevere through the dark times. I don't know about you, that was a major takeaway for me. How about you? What are you going to share with your friends, family members, or coworkers? By the way, we're doing a giveaway in the month of October, and here's Tracy Maxfield, an author, to tell you more about that.
Hi, I'm Tracy Maxfield, and I was on podcast Other People's Shoes a couple of weeks ago talking about depression and my journey from the rabbit hole. In fact, I wrote a book, Escaping the Rabbit Hole, My Journey Through Depression. I have given a signed copy of my book that they can give away. I hope you enjoy my book.
Thank you, Tracy. To enter the giveaway, it's simple. Like us on Facebook under Other People's Shoes. You can also follow us on Instagram at OPS Podcast Show, #Escaping the Rabbit Hole. On Twitter, you follow us at People's Shoes, #Escaping the Rabbit Hole. Stay tuned next week as we hear about the ripple effect. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Until next Wednesday, have a great week. Bye-bye.